welcome to episode 4 of the Sunday Sauce. How are you today? Is everybody staying warm? Nice
Scared now.
Fireplace. Everybody did their shoveling.
I'm terrified. What's happening?
We have hockey to talk about. First off, are you guys all right? We doing well in the snow?
I'm inside,
as
so
can be. Yeah, as good as can be, Tyler. That's for sure.
Good.
How about you?
Doing well. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 4 of the Sunday Sauce. I'm here with my main guy, Andrew. We're here every week. We have a guest this week from the Primetime Rundown. You can catch him covering St. John basketball during the week. Joey Jarzynka.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, fellas.
It's different being on this side, isn't it?
It is. It's definitely weird. But the best part is that we're talking about hockey as opposed to every other trash sport. So I'm extremely grateful to be aboard here.
Wow, I that's a sentence I never thought I'd heard. I never hear before.
Well, Tyler, you have known me for the last 8 years, and you have known that hockey runs through my blood. Thanks a lot. Thanks in large part to you.
That's fair. And you know what? Speaking of hockey, before we start, we're gonna have a little story time. But I can't do a story time without help. And you are part of the reason I get help. Because one of our partners is you, Ian, and Rob over at the Primetime Rundown. You can catch Rob DeLuca, Ian Schreier, and Joey every Friday night at 7 p.m. on StreamYard. And if you can't catch them live, it's not a big deal because you can find them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on demand on YouTube. We also get help from our friends over at the Essential Wrestling Podcast. You can join John DeConnie, John Smith, Al Carl, Ryan Joy, and Gary Mahaffey every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Same deal. If you can't catch them live, not a problem. You can catch them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and on demand on YouTube. And guys, tonight is a big night in the wrestling world. It is the Royal Rumble. And our guys did a fantastic job covering that last night. And if you didn't get to catch their Royal Rumble special, it's right here. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube with iHeartRadio. You can go back, catch everything they had to say, all of their predictions, and who they think is going to win the Royal Rumble. So, Andrew, not only are we joined by Joey, we are also joined by an attempted murderer.
You? Are you confessing?
It was 2014 in the Nassau Coliseum parking lot. The San Jose Sharks were in town. You've been to the Coliseum parking lot, of course, right? You're a degenerate.
Of course.
The players would walk from the hotel to the arena for practice in the morning.
Yep.
Mind you, this was the first time me and Joe had ever met.
Wonderful.
Patrick Marleau, Joe Pavelski, and I think Logan Couture at the time walked over in a group of 3.
It was actually Antti Niemi.
Was it Niemi? Okay.
Oh, boy, it was. Sharks legend Antti Niemi, yeah.
So they're walking across, and all 3 of them were very nice. They stopped, they signed autographs, they took pictures. This lunatic nearly murdered all 3 of them with his car.
Oh, no.
So, even though you were never officially convicted, how does it feel to almost take out the lives of 3 Sharks legends?
Well, I got to tell you, the best part was that someone that we used to be friends with, Steven Weissman, was a good guy, Islanders fan through and through, and he says to me, Joe, let's go to the parking lot. And that's where all the players, they walk from wherever. And I had no idea. This is my first time, Nassau Community College, whatnot. And he says, Joe, let's go. Come on, we'll go together. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then he goes before. I think I had a class or whatnot. And I, from afar, all I see is a couple of guys signing. And as I get closer, you would think normally you'd hit the brake, obviously. That's what you learn in driving class.
Yes.
But I decided to hit the gas and nearly take out Patrick Marleau. And I have to find the picture. I wish I had it here, but
I can get it for you.
you can see the photo of that surprisingly Tyler took, right? So I get there, I nearly swerve around Patrick Marleau, and I just take up like 3 spots up against the fence near the Uniondale Marriott. And I run, and I say, Mr. Marleau, can I get a picture, please? And he just gives me this weird look as if like I'm like an axe murderer. And there's one guy that was standing there, and it was Tyler. And I said, "Excuse me, can you please take a picture for me?" And Tyler is, I believe, if I can recall correctly, he was laughing, and he's like, "Absolutely," because he thought it was so funny that I nearly killed a living legend. And I could have been on the news, and he could have been the first eyewitness right there, and he would have had my phone as well. So there could have been some text messages that he could have had there that it showed that I had this whole plan. But all joking aside, though, yeah, that's where it all began for Tyler and I. Crazy stuff, and we eventually got the picture though, and a signed Patty Marleau jersey. So it was pretty cool.
So I think the next podcast we start, it needs to be a little bit of a spin-off from a very popular movie already. So I went into business with a car murderer.
Well done.
Let's shift gears a little bit, because now we've established how I was stuck with you for life.
Yep.
Speaking of Sharks legends, a couple of legends this week in their own right were acknowledged by their teams. Sergey Zubov, his number 56, retired by the Dallas Stars.
Yep.
And I've never even heard of this guy. Henrik Lundqvist. I don't even know who this is.
Who is that?
I've never heard of him.
No.
No, both obviously
Sounds
very
like a
big
Washington Capitals legend to me, Tyler.
Yeah, Team Sweden alum, Washington Capitals legend.
Pretty much it. I've never really heard his name around these parts of Long Island. No.
Yeah, you look at his numbers, he seems all right. 460 wins. Ooh.
I've seen better.
My Via Pro has like 900 wins.
I could do that. Let's be real.
Yeah, I could do that in VR hockey. Henrik Lundqvist, his number 30, retired by the Rangers. Deserving is an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was, I'm sorry to bring up a sore subject for you, Andrew, but that guy was literally a Stanley Cup away from being a legitimate god. And he's already like basically a god here.
Yeah. And once again, at Alec Martinez for ruining 2014 for me.
It was a great year. I don't know what you're talking about. 887 games played, 871 of those games started. A career record of 459 wins, 310 losses, 96 losses in overtime, a career .243 goals against average, and a career .918 save percentage with 64 shutouts and just shy of 52,000 minutes played. He was on the NHL All-Rookie team in 2006, the Rangers team MVP from 2007 to 2013, additionally in 2016 and 2018, a 5-time All-Star, a Vezina Trophy winner in 2012, and the NHL All-Decade second team for the 2010s. There's a tremendous list of team accomplishments and records he holds that would probably keep us here for 3 hours before we even touch the next topic. But, I mean, he's got the most wins by a Ranger goaltender, the fastest goaltender to record 400 wins in NHL history, most consecutive Game 7 wins, most combined games played. The guy has literally done it all for the Rangers. And last night, I mean, I'll pull up a quick photo for our listeners, just of the sight of last night, and just wow.
Yeah, I mean that's just pretty.
It's weird to look at because, in a way, it's kind of the beginning of our age group and our tier. The people we grew up watching, like this is one of the first people to have their number sent up. And I mean, after, if you shift gears to the NFL for a minute, Tom Brady is not going to be very far behind since he announced his retirement today. But now it's starting, and now I feel dangerously old.
The white hairs are growing.
The white hair has been growing in the spots where I can still grow it. But yeah, I mean, try finding a bad thing to say about this guy. You know,
no, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Even as an Islander fan, you know, and Joe can attest. He's one of the few people in the league that you can't say a bad word about.
No, you can't. And you know, everything that he has done throughout his career, regardless of the Game 5 loss in Los Angeles, I think Tyler, you said it perfectly. The man literally needed one and you know what? All he needed was to lift the Stanley Cup one time, and he would have been atop of the hockey world in terms of goaltenders, and he already is. But that one little piece that he's missing is a ring. And you look at the guys like Dominik Hasek, who sent a very nice video yesterday that I believe the NHL posted yesterday. You've got so many different players out there that have these Stanley Cup rings that, you know, unfortunately, that one little memento that he missed will forever have him, you know, it won't be an asterisk because the numbers speak for itself. And I'll be honest with you, Tyler, when you said 64 shutouts, it sounded like not, it didn't sound right. I thought that he was in the 70s. I thought he was in the 70s or the 80s at the bare minimum.
See, I was texting my friend Jason last night during the retirement ceremony, and I was kind of like in and out of it. Like I was focusing on it, but not. I was actually preparing notes for the show. And I saw that framed picture of the pucks, but I completely missed like what the gift was for. And so I texted him. I'm like, what are these pucks for? What did I miss? And he was like, that's a puck from every shutout he's had. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like enough.
Right.
And he was like, no, he's only got 64.
Right.
And I was like, I mean, you say only, but I mean, when you compare it to 871 games started, I mean, was that? I mean, I'm no mathematician here, but that's just shy of 20% of his wins were shutouts. You know, I mean, we could whip out the calculators, but
well, keep in mind also, Tyler, and I don't mean to interrupt you guys here, but Andrew can definitely attest to this too, is that you have to realize some of the teams that Henrik Lundqvist had in front of him too, they were pretty subpar, and he made them, he stood on his head. Yeah. And you also look back in that 2013-14 season, going up against Los Angeles and really throughout the playoffs that year, they had no right to really, let me remove those words. They had a right to be in the Stanley Cup final. Were they better than Montreal? Yeah, because they were the speed was off the charts. They matched Pittsburgh's speed. They were even better. What Marty St. Louis did in that playoff series was absolutely insane. But when you go up against a big, bulky team, you had to match it. And unfortunately, Henrik continued to stand on his head, and he couldn't do it for more than 5 games. But still, you know, kudos to him in a fantastic career. It's unbelievable that number 30 went to the rafters. And Tyler, you said it, man. We feel old. Oof.
Yeah, I feel old. I feel old and gross.
You and me both. Yeah.
It's yeah. Again, I mean, I had the pleasure to meet him one time. Nicest guy in the world. Tiny guy. I mean, for a goalie, I was about eye level with him. I was actually kind of surprised with that.
Really?
Yeah, he was tiny. But again, nicest guy in the world. It would be a reach to say something bad about him. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. I think when you look at the note sheet, I mean, I'm really not kidding. The entire first page of notes is just for him.
It's just accolades, yeah.
This is just him, and this is 6 pages. It's hard to say that the Stanley Cup really diminishes anything or takes anything away from him, because it really doesn't.
But that's the one thing people are going to go to. It's the one thing anyone will ever go to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's such an unfair argument, the championships. I mean, again, I feel like it does depend on the person you're talking about. Like, Henrik Lundqvist, he's not going to be defined by a Stanley Cup. At least I don't think so. yeah, it's just I'm still like I'm processing the fact that like he retired, his numbers retired, and I'm gonna be like 100 next week.
You are though.
Very funny. Forward, Sergey Zubov, like I said before, his number 56 was retired by the Dallas Stars. His Stars tenure from 1996 to 2009 with 839 games played, 111 goals, 438 assists, 549 points. Was part of the 1999 Stanley Cup team. He currently sits 7th all-time in Dallas Stars points and 3rd all-time in Dallas Stars assists. Again, a very, very respectable career for a deserving player. And Andrew, he was also a member of your 94 Cup team.
Yes, he was.
I believe he was with the Rangers for
another. I think he was 96. He moved. He left. I think.
I was gonna say I think he was there for 3 years and then Pittsburgh for 1.
Yeah, because the Cup year was his second year in the league.
Right. So he was there from
95
to like 96, 97.
Yeah, roughly. I think then he left in 96, 97.
Right.
There's a wild night for me. 2 of my favorite players of all time getting their jerseys retired.
Yeah, it's I mean, jersey retirements are always fun. They're kind of a little bit more fun when they're people you've actually seen play. Because now that like my memory is kind of jogging a little bit, I've actually kind of remembered that Lundqvist was not the first, but one of the first. This season has also seen I'm sorry, not this season, but we've also seen both Sedin's number retired.
Mm-hmm.
Marine's number is coming up. Roberto Luongo's number was just recently done. So we are some old people.
Think about the athletes and icons in New York alone that we are retired now within the last 10 years. Now it's Lundqvist, David Wright, Derek Jeter, Eli Manning. It's insane that whole generation is now behind us.
I mean, you think about earlier this week, perfect example. It was, 5 years ago or 6 years ago that David Ortiz was making all of our lives a nightmare. And he's now going to Cooperstown this summer. Yeah. Like, it's insane. Same thing with Derek Jeter. I mean, I didn't start watching baseball until I was, a little bit older, till I, when I could appreciate it a little bit more. So I caught the tail end. So I don't really consider his career as something I got to live through.
Yeah.
But regardless, enough of this baseball crap. This is a hockey show. All right. Stop making me do that.
Sorry, I'm making you think.
Speaking of questionable hockey decisions, there's a player making his debut tonight with the Oilers by the name of Evander Kane.
Mm-hmm.
He signed a 1-year deal, pretty much going to get him through the rest of the season. He does have a cap hit for the rest of the year of 2.1, but he's only pocketing veteran minimum, which is $750. Was this a good decision by the Oilers?
Maybe.
I'll start with you. Go ahead.
I think that this is a high risk, high reward for the Edmonton Oilers, and I think that with things that you and I have spoken about, Tyler, with Connor McDavid and I don't want to call it the leash that's getting shorter and shorter, but contracts do come to a close at some point. And we remember when Peter Chiarelli offered and eventually signed Connor McDavid to a massive $12.5 million deal that eventually changed the landscape of the way the salary cap works in the NHL. And there was no other help aside from Leon Draisaitl, and those two cannot do everything. It cannot be 2 versus 12. The Oilers have gotten a little bit better in terms of roster on paper. They tried with Kyle Turris. They tried to get some help down the middle. They tried with wings. Zach Hyman's there as well, but I think that things aren't going as great as possible. I don't know if it's the Edmonton curse that simply just no one can do anything there, but I think that, again, if you can get Evander Kane in check, and maybe if Connor McDavid can be that, not only the leader, but also, with him doing all of the phenomenal moves that he does on the ice. And if Evander Kane can be that, supporting cast as like a third line guy and just, keeps his mouth shut or, does anything stupid. This could be good and could definitely stabilize what is right now such a top-heavy still Edmonton Oilers team that need help, and they need to get past something because we continue to hear the Canadian media. It's not nice up in Edmonton. Not only is it not nice, but there's also another problem, is that how much longer will Connor McDavid go before there might be some sort of turmoil within the front office of Edmonton? Maybe the head coach, Dave Tippett, goes. Maybe he might request a trade out of there. We don't know. But Ken Holland right now, the general manager, is trying every single thing that he can because, again, there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of salary cap. And also, he doesn't have many draft picks either.
Andrew, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. Definitely high reward. And even if I don't even know if I'm going to call it high risk, because I do think that, like, if he steps out of line, they're going to be very quick to boot him out. It's going to be on a very short leash. I do think he'll reel it in, especially being with Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid, it's Connor McDavid. He's going to listen to him, we would hope. And yeah, I had the same thoughts when they were going through that really bad losing streak of how long will Connor McDavid accept this. And now I think they're catering more towards let's keep McDavid here than what do we need to do to keep McDavid here than more than what do we need to do to win a cup. They need to make him happy any way they can. So, yeah, decent risk. Could be a very high reward. We all know that he's a good hockey player. He just has to keep his head in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the talent being brought in is not in question. It's just how long. It's basically like bringing in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And like how much longer till it goes off.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, I mean, and looking now, that was they gave him a no movement clause too, which is kind of.
Did they?
Yeah, they gave him a no movement clause.
Ooh.
Which is something.
That's the part where the high risk comes in. Because with that no movement now, he has full control of any decision that happens.
Yeah, that's
the problem.
That's something. I'll pull this up for our listeners. I'm going to pull up Cap Friendly, which we love to do. Not sponsored by Cap Friendly. # sponsor us. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that cap hit of 2.1 right here, I mean, it doesn't really do them too much damage when you consider they still have something to work with.
Well, the problem here, Tyler, is that I want to just jump in here if I may, because the big thing here is that what Ken Holland is trying to do right now, he's still trying to clean up the mess that Peter Chiarelli made. And you look when you scroll down, you look at the goaltenders and you look at New York Islanders legend Mikko Koskinen, and you say to yourself, that was a really gutsy signing when you sign Mikko Koskinen to a 4-year deal worth $4.5 AAV. This man is not worth any more than $2 million, and now you have no choice but to keep him on the roster. And there also were different moves that had to be made because James Neal didn't work out. Andre Sekera didn't work out. So now you have nearly $7 million tied up into basically nothing. And now you also don't have anyone to back up Koskinen because Mike Smith is 41 or 42 years old, and he's on his last leg in his career. That's the problem too. But I have to give Ken Holland all the credit because he's working with not a lot, and he's getting a brunt of it from the media and also from the back of his head that says the time is ticking. He has to do this, this, and this. But again, Peter Chiarelli has a lot to blame. I think what he did with Darnell Nurse and signing that too, again, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but there is a lot of good things upcoming in Edmonton if things go right. But again, it has to just be with Evander Kane. That $2 million, the no movement thing, exactly what Andrew said, it's very, very high reward, but such a high risk if he doesn't pan out.
So Look, I know it's been some time since I was on the Primetime Rundown. I don't know how you run things over there, but we love tangents over here, especially named Arizona and Montreal. You don't have to worry about it. No, but I mean, I really couldn't have said it better. I mean, that Darnell Nurse contract was something. I mean, look, he's a big physical guy. He can throw some hits. He can start a scrum. And that's pretty much it. You know, I mean, he's not elite is the best way to probably say it and not be mean to him. And on no planet should he be making 9.25 after the season. I want to leave Mikko Koskinen alone for a little bit because I am going to get into that a little bit later on. I mean, the Duncan Keith contract, that trade, I mean, that made more sense for Chicago than it did Edmonton. I understand why it was done, but to eat 5.5 willingly for 2 more years when you're trying to do damage control, I don't particularly understand it too much. There's not a ton of contracts here that I can really complain about. I mean, and nobody's complaining about Draisaitl and McDavid. So let's just
of course not.
Let's completely cut them out of the screen. Let's pretend like they're not even here. Zach Hyman, based off of how he's playing this year, I mean, 5.5 is almost a borderline steal. Let's see. Zach Cassian, probably a little bit too much for that enforcer, third line checking role type guy. But, I think one of the things that people forget is with the cap slowly increasing every year, that's about what these guys are going to be getting paid on the regular.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right now it doesn't seem very friendly, but who knows? The one thing that I do notice, they're going to get slammed this year with their RFAs.
Yeah.
And their 2 biggest ones being Jesse Puljujarvi and Kailer Yamamoto. Like, yeah, you know that they're not going anywhere next year. You have their control unless somebody offer sheets them. But almost it's how much are they going to command, and are you going to be able to keep both? I'm not even looking at Ryan McLeod and these guys, because these are your.
They're important.
I don't want to say they're your future, but they're pretty close to being part of your future core top 6.
Yeah, I agree.
Tyler, the big thing there with those two, with Puljujarvi and Yamamoto is that, as we can see, if I can see correctly, is that looks like that they both have the right to file for arbitration. So that to me is a little bit worrisome, especially with, again, a very tight cap. So if we do the math here, we've got Darnell Nurse making 5.6, goes up to 9.25. You've got that, and then you also have, let's just say, Puljujarvi and Yamamoto. They request or they think that they're worth $2.5 million. So then they, let's say, give them a tiny bit of a raise. A judge says, "All right, we're going to give you $2 million." That's not that bad, because then you'll be able to replace Evander Kane with whatever the case may be. But again, Mikko Koskinen will not be back at 4.5 or anything like that. That's sort of a good thing there. But again, you've got that Darnell Nurse contract that pretty much rises or balloons, if you will, pretty mightily. But I want to go back to what you said about Duncan Keith, though. They did that for a locker room presence that has a Stanley Cup, and also that has a presence in terms of leadership. And we have to realize also is that aside from Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, as well as Connor McDavid, both had an A at one point. McDavid had an A before he got the C, of course. These guys need some help in the locker room because James Neal didn't pan out. He was a Stanley Cup champion, but unfortunately, things didn't work out with him on the team, so they had to get somebody, and they had to pay a price for it. And then you also look at, again, with going back to the RFAs here, these guys are going to get no more than just a 2-3 year bridge deal that's probably about $2 million each. But the thing also to me is that eventually, once the cap rises, the dead cap that they've got from the aforementioned Sekera and Neal, those will eventually go away. But again, this is a massive process here for Ken Holland, though. This is going to be tough, and Edmonton will be suffering for a little bit if they can't get things going in some way or shape or form.
While we're on the topic, do we see things getting bad enough somewhere around this 25 to 26 year range right here, where the Oilers' hand is forced and they can no longer keep Draisaitl and McDavid?
No.
I don't think so either.
I mean, look, you can trade Gretzky, you can trade McDavid. I'm just saying. This team's got a history for trading great people.
You got a point there.
I do. Look, I don't see it ever getting that bad for them. If it gets that bad for them, that team needs to pull out of the NHL and restart the WHA. It's going to be, from a hockey fan's perspective, it's going to be fun to watch how things pan out for them. Because, I mean, look, I think I speak for all three of us, from any chance we've got, especially when they're playing our respective teams in the Islanders and Rangers, our eyes don't leave Connor McDavid.
I don't know.
Every chance we get, we're watching him. And, I mean, every time also he's coming up on a milestone, you almost have to watch even when he starts getting within 10 to 15 points out, because he can put up a 5-point game at will, is probably the best way to say it. I mean, this season, sitting at 21 goals, 37 assists, 58 points, he's actually moving much slower than he probably is used to. Imagine.
Couldn't think of it.
But look, Evander Kane, obviously, for those who are new to the Sunday Sauce, we are going to be a little bit behind everybody when you guys are finally seeing this. So when Evander Kane makes his debut tonight for the Oilers, I guess that'll be the first lick of how well this experiment might go.
Yeah, who do they play tonight?
They are playing a hockey team.
Good observation.
They are playing
Montreal.
Are they playing Montreal?
Play Montreal.
All right, so he's going to have like 90 points.
Well, hey, listen, don't count out Montreal. Remember, I think it was earlier this week, Montreal and Colorado went into overtime.
Yeah, that was sweaty.
Yeah,
that was uncalled for.
Unnecessary.
Well, you're also talking about the same team who, if I can find it, let me make sure. Okay, so yeah, they took Colorado to overtime on Thursday.
That sound. I know I had money on the game.
That was last week. That was last Friday that happened. This is also the same Montreal team that was what's the word I'm looking for? Embarrassed on Monday night 8-2 by Minnesota. So
you know what? They also beat Dallas 6-3 2 weeks ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, well, beating Dallas isn't very hard. Did you watch the game last night?
All right.
I'm just saying your secondary team is terrible.
They can be.
It's okay. My primary team is terrible too.
You guys are doing pretty well, but that'll be later.
What's that?
I said they're doing pretty well right now, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. But for now, we got to talk about the mess. It seemed as almost if this sentence was going to go away for a little while, but it has resurfaced. We have to talk about the mess in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Some teams are just
they are missing
magnets to
6
messes.
goalies going into tonight's game with Arizona. Arizona, for almost the first time all season, are considered the favorites.
Incredible.
Do we even know who they're saying is going to start this game? Like, has anybody ever heard of them?
All I know is there's 7 goalies listed on ESPN.
I didn't even look to see who was slated. Oh, did we all miss something?
With Aaron Dell?
No. Craig Anderson is starting tonight.
Well, then he must be coming off the injured reserve because he's been on the IR, I think, much of the year, no?
Very large majority of it. Like, this didn't even I never even got the update for this. That
No,
is
me neither.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think Buffalo should be considering playing potentially in University of or Niagara University's building and say, you know what, I'm going to hand the keys to KeyBank Center to somebody else because we're a college hockey team at this rate. It's pretty bad.
College, you're being a little polite.
Yeah, I mean, then you know what? They might have to go the Kraft Hockeyville route. Oof, brutal.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, hey, listen. All I know is that maybe some of new tennis pro Jessica Pegula, the Pegula's daughter, who made it to the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, maybe she could use some of her earnings and give it to her parents and say, hey, listen, we got to get the Sabres going. This is brutal.
Yeah, it's you almost thought that
It's embarrassing.
You almost thought the Jack Eichel drama was finally going to end. All of the Buffalo Sabres heckling.
Yeah, I was going to bring them some good karma, maybe.
Significantly gotten worse. And just so everybody knows, also, if the Oilers are looking for a goalie, Aaron Dell is on waivers. And we're going to get to him, too, for that very not-so-nice thing he did.
When did that happen?
As soon as they activated Craig Anderson.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why. So we've been going for about 30 minutes now, a little bit more than 30 minutes. This just broke 20 minutes ago.
That'll do it.
All right.
There
So
you
we
go.
love live news. So with that being said, the Sabres are still down 5 goalies. If you're the Sabres, what do? You pack it in and just hope for a very good draft pick, or you go make a move for a goalie? Because
I think them trying is still them hoping for a good draft pick.
I mean, well, here's the thing, though. I hate to agree but disagree, but they're in 5th in the Atlantic. I mean, they're not far out. Like
They had a great start of the year. Dude.
Look, are they going to win? Are they going to win? Are they going to make the playoffs, let alone win a playoff round?
No.
But they've got okay,
but hold on. You say 5th in the Atlantic, but tell me the 2 teams under them.
Ottawa and Montreal. Which Ottawa should not be below them.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I understand that it's a reach, but for Buffalo, considering that Montreal is just keeping 8th place warm for them and probably warm for themselves for the rest of the year, you have to look at it as progress for Buffalo. They are moving up the standings.
Look,
technically speaking.
Do I think you should make an immediate move for a goaltender right now? Absolutely not. That would be insane, and they would have to literally throw the team away and start over.
Yeah.
They already have. They already have with Jack Eichel because, we have to realize something. The moment that they also signed Jeff Skinner a few years back, right, they thought, okay, this was our move that was going to make it really good. And then let's add Eric Stahl to that, right? Yeah. Let's add Eric Stahl who can center the line with Jeff Skinner when things didn't work out with Eichel, right? We brought him in. Well, guess what? That didn't work. They were trying to rejuvenate the old Carolina Hurricanes. Guess what? That didn't work. Let me tell you something. The problem is that what they got in return for Jack Eichel, right? Alex Tuck really being the marquee return piece in that trade. It's abysmal. What has gone on out there or up in Western New York is a disaster. What Kevin Adams has done, I feel bad for him almost because he's working with nothing. And he's so cap struck as well, too, because he's got Kyle Opozo for another 2 years at 6.25. Yes. How much can this man do? And also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tyler. The Jeff Skinner signing was not even his. There's so many problems that people are coming in here doing this, doing that. It's very bad up in Buffalo. And these general managers that they are basically recycling and they're throwing one away, throwing the other thing away. Jason Botterill, I believe he was the one that signed I don't know if it was him or not with Skinner, but whoever it was that signed Skinner, that was a brutal signing. And yes, it was the marquee signing of the summer a couple of years ago. Big whoop. He's done nothing.
So Just for the record, we don't allow slander of Islander legend Kyle Oposo on the show.
That's right. That's right. How dare I?
That's totally
Unacceptable.
That's just mean.
Yes.
Just mean.
Yes.
Understandable, but mean. You also got to remember, this is not only a Sabres team that tried to rejuvenate things with a Eric Stahl, Jeff Skinner line. Taylor Hall was on that line too.
Yeah, that's true.
5 years ago, not even 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that line would have been considered terrifying. Nobody would have wanted to go near it. In 2021, that's just not going to work.
Swiss cheese.
It's a terrible line. Buffalo, look, I think it goes without saying they were never getting what they were supposed to get for Jack Eichel. They were never going to get that.
They're lucky they got what they got for him.
They're very lucky they got what they got. Buffalo is in a position right now, in my opinion, where this is probably a very good year for them to have been able to dump Eichel and restart the process of the rebuild. Some pretty not so bad contracts are coming off, but enough to help them make some moves. Cody Eakin's going to be coming off the books at 2.25. Will Butcher comes off the books at 2.8. A bunch of very minuscule, like veteran minimum contracts. Remember, Buffalo is also eating Johnny Boychuk's money.
I was about to say, I just saw that on Cap Friendly. They're paying Johnny Boychuk?
They traded Johnny Boychuk
for nothing,
to Buffalo. And in exchange, Johnny Boychuk was allowed to still hang out around the Islanders. Some trade.
Well, he's been in Edmonton. Keep that in mind. When they made that trade, Lou Lamoriello had came out and said that he's been in Edmonton the whole time due to COVID because he wasn't really supposed to, cross the border.
Yes. I think, I don't know. I mean, Buffalo is going to be in a very good spot with it. I mean, look, coming up this season, this offseason, 2021, 2022, they're going to be playing with just over $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have the moves to pay the right people, which I don't particularly know who that is on the roster that belongs to the Buffalo Sabres. They also have the move to bring in some people in a very heavy free agency class, as we've discussed a couple of times in the first 4 weeks. Going into this year's draft, they also have quite a bit of draft capital to work with and probably going to have more coming. They have 3 first-round picks. 2 of them are conditional.
Yeah.
One of their first-round picks with Florida is conditional. If the pick is a top 10 pick, Florida will be retaining their pick. So that's basically a guaranteed second pick.
Yep.
It's almost a guarantee. But
yep.
And they have another conditional, Vegas.
It's the same thing.
If the 2022 first-round pick is in the top 10, Vegas will transfer the 2023 first-round pick to Buffalo instead. So they're going to have 3 first-round picks.
They will have 3 picks.
No chance Florida and Vegas are going to finish in the bottom 10. 1 pick in round 2, 1 pick in round 3, a pick in 4. The Devils pick in round 5, a pick in round 6, a pick in round 7. The following year, they have one of their own picks in every round, except the third, and 3 second-round picks. They're going to have a lot to work with coming up.
They do.
So,
I mean, their young guys are good now too. So I mean, they're in that respect, they're in a pretty good spot. You look at Dylan Cousins, Peyton Krebs.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, as crazy as this might sound, honestly, with the amount of draft capital I have coming up and some of the moves and the contracts I have to dump, goaltending is the least of my concerns, even in the middle of the season.
Well, the big thing to me here with Buffalo is that I love how you said that there's a lot of draft capital. There's a lot of guys in free agency, but the problem, Tyler, is that what direction is Buffalo going in? They're literally in purgatory right now, and they are just standing still. They have no sense of direction, because one day the Pegulas will say, well, you know what? Kevin Adams is not our guy. Don Granato is not our guy. Okay, next. Now you're going to have, again, the head coach and another general manager that comes in, and they're going to want a completely different vision. And the Pegulas are going to say, yeah, sure, why not? Because our focus are on the Buffalo Bills. So the problem is that, yes, it all sounds, it all sounds fantastic. But then when you look at what they've got here in terms of even draft capital, even someone that can be traded this season, aside from Cody Eakin, there's not much here that I can see that is, that sticks out to me. Where do you begin? That's the problem. Where do you begin in terms of who do you build around? At this point in time, do you really build around Jeff Skinner? Do you really build around Alex Tuck? Do you build around Rasmus Dahlin? We don't know what all of these guys are capable of. We know what Tuck and Skinner are capable of, but then again, if you and just like what you said about the draft picks as well, they don't have much. They do not have much. Regardless of these picks, these are not going to be top 10 picks. These are going to be, down the line picks. And again, you look just looking at the conditional here. If the 2022 first round pick is in the top 10, Vegas won't set transfer. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. They're going to be low level draft picks. And it all sounds it all sounds great, but there's no direction by this organization. It's really a sad state of affairs up there, because remember, they once were a storied franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it was not that long ago where, Thomas Vanek and the Buffalo Sabres were running through, at the time, the original Eastern Conference, seeded 1 through 8.
Yeah, Ryan Miller, too.
Yeah, they were running through to the East Finals.
Yeah.
And I think, even in, what movie was it? Bruce Almighty, they were Stanley Cup champions, which they will never see. But, look, like you were saying with the draft capital, at best, if the stars align for Buffalo, at best, these are going to be picks numbers 15 and 16. You know what I mean? And that's saying that both of these teams are the first two teams bounced out of the playoffs.
We're going to plummet. Yeah, that's unlikely.
You're talking this pick right here is easily going to be in the mid-20s. That's all. Vegas is a guaranteed West final. Florida, high teens, like 19 to like 22. I could be it could be wrong. These guys could win a cup. Either one of these teams is more than capable of winning the cup in this turn. One of these two picks turn into the 32nd pick. With Buffalo's luck, these will be the 31st and 32nd picks.
With Buffalo's luck, that's going to be the cup final.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
With their luck, this is going to be the 31st and 32nd picks. Enough of this Buffalo talk. I get a headache just thinking about them. They're that bad. We got a couple more things to cover before we move into the more local teams. I want to show you guys a clip. And I want some opinions, because I know that we're all very conscious about player safety, injuries, and player health. Wednesday night, the Avalanche and the Bruins, regular, exhibition regular season game. Nathan MacKinnon takes a hit up high, which at first looked dirty to me. Once you zoom in and you see the slow motion, to me, not so dirty. Let's take a look at the slow-mo right here.
In this game, MacKinnon cutting across the middle. Took a hit from Taylor Hall, but it was the stick of MacKinnon that actually hit the face of MacKinnon.
And the impact of the hit through the stick and through the upper body.
So the outcome of this, Nathan MacKinnon, he's suffering with a concussion and a facial fracture at the moment. He is going to miss at least 3 games. Guys, to me, it was a hit intended for the chest. MacKinnon just seems to get tied up with his stick trying to get around him. Stick comes, whacks him right in the face. I got
no problem with that hit.
There. And Taylor Hall did receive a 2-minute interference penalty for this. Mind both of you, but did not receive further discipline. Andrew, I'll start with you. Your thought.
No, that hit's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Made contact with the chest. Stick gets caught up there, flings up, hits him in the face. Nothing wrong with it. The only reason Hall got a penalty is just damage control. That's it. It's just to keep the temperature of the game down. Obviously, everyone hopes Nathan McKinnon comes back. That picture of his nose facing his right ear was an awful picture, and I don't want to see that ever again.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have absolutely no issues with that hit.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say that there was anything wrong with it, and I do give the officials, the referees and the linesmen, the benefit of the doubt there. More the referees because they're the ones making the call. I give them the benefit of the doubt in real time. Don't get me wrong, this was a clear interference penalty. The puck was nowhere near him when the hit was connected. Had they called something, illegal check to the head, something like that, it's hard to not give them the benefit of the doubt because in real time that, it did look like a malicious hit. Joe, your thoughts?
The only thing that I would want to see is if he left the ice, in terms of, if his skates left the ice, if he kind of made a little bit of a jump or anything along those lines, then to me, I'm with Andrew. I think that was a clean hit, and I think it was, wrong place, wrong time there for the stick and for Nathan McKinnon, that it looked to me like it was a clear hit. It was a good, clean hit. And I think also the way that you saw Taylor Hall go in, he went with his shoulder, and I think there was no intent for injury. I think that what he got was really, just like I said, wrong place, wrong time for the stick as well as Nathan McKinnon. So good job by the NHL for not going bongos with this, or even doing any fines and doing their due diligence. And the on ice officials, 2 minutes for interference. Sure, I didn't see where the puck was, but it looked pretty clean to me.
Yeah, I really couldn't have said it better myself, because we obviously all know the NHL has a history of not having any consistent type of player safety personnel. Looking at you, George Parros. It's nice to see that the league didn't freak out over this. And honestly, I think when you sports, for the better and the worse, they have such good, not even good, great technology to enhance vision, slow-mo cameras. They can, like this video was a perfect zoom-in clip. Personally, if I'm the one who's going to make the call on that, as soon as I see him hit his hands and then his hands lead into his face, I mean, look, Andrew, you and I both play hockey. We both know this is why people tell you to control your stick, because you're either going to take a high sticking penalty or knock your own teeth out of your head.
Clearly, yeah. And I mean, what I do love too is the review of the major penalty, because initially it was a major penalty, and then all the systems in place did their job. They looked at it, they realized it wasn't a major, they reduced it down to a minor. Everything went as it should.
Yeah. Moving forward to another very questionable hit this week, and by questionable I mean blatantly obvious. I'll show you the clip for our listeners. It will be a clip of our good friend who we've spoken about today already, Aaron Dell, laying the smackdown. I see I did that for the Royal Rumble. Laying the smackdown on Ottawa's forward, Drake Batson.
This is Aaron Dell. See, that's oh no! Oh,
that's the left
That's
leg.
His left knee. See, this is Aaron Dell on purpose. Like, that's interference. Like, I'm sorry. He's not trying to get out of the way.
There is nothing to be sorry about, Mr. Announcer Man, because that is clear as day interference. I almost want to cycle around here, but I'm pretty sure we're all going to have the same opinion on this. Look, guys, Drake Batson is going to miss multiple months with an ankle sprain, as per the Ottawa Senators. He was replaced from the All-Star game by teammate and captain Brady Tkachuk. Look, this guy is a repeat offender. This is not the first time he's done this. He did it multiple times during his tenure in San Jose. I don't think 3 games was enough, honestly, because this is not the first time he's done it. He's now taken a league leader in scoring, a top 5, leader in scoring out of a team's equation. You think for a team like Ottawa, who, like we were talking before, they're in 7th in the Atlantic, not having, they are in a little bit of a slump right now. any chance this team had of making the playoffs was just killed.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for a guy who's a repeat offender and took a guy out for really what could end up being, we're only 2 days out from February, 3 days out from February. I mean,
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy who could legitimately miss the rest of the season. Joe, your thoughts? Three games enough or not enough?
Well, for starters, no, I don't think it's enough. I think that with the history that Adelle has had in San Jose, he's been very good out there. He's been good throughout his career, but he has had a temper issue. In addition to that, too, is that in the video, too, you can see, regardless of Drake Batherson coming around towards the boards, and yes, he is in the trapezoid area, whatnot, right? Regardless of whatever it is, I don't like the way Adelle blatantly shoved Batherson out of there. Now, yes, we understand that is the unrestricted area for goaltenders in the NHL, where you go around, you can play the puck that way, but that's not an unrestricted area for skaters. It's not, and I think what we got to see there was clear frustration from Adelle. He's not happy with his time in Buffalo, clearly. And Buffalo didn't seem to care. They put him on waivers, as you broke early on in terms of news. It's sad to see how fast Arendelle's career has gone down. He's been dealing with injuries, but it doesn't give you the right to do that, especially as I don't want to call it repeat offender. I think he's done maybe twice or three times, something like that. But again, that does align in the vocabulary for the NHL, repeat offender. So three, I would say probably about 5 or 6 games would have been fair. But to see what Batherson has done this year, that is a monumental loss for the Ottawa Senators, especially when they're going through a full rebuild and the light is getting closer. In terms of the end of the tunnel. So really a tough break for Batherson, but he's been having a phenomenal sophomore year.
Yeah, it's tough to see this happen to a kid who's been having a great season. Was going to go to his first All-Star game. And I feel like the NHL has a consistency issue, as we were talking before. It almost seems as if these repeat offenders are not taken seriously anymore. Andrew will cycle back to last year with the Rangers playing the Capitals. Tom Wilson did his very best Jake Roberts DDT, took out Artemi Panarin. I mean, you're talking about a guy who thankfully did not go on a very deep playoff run, but you're talking about a team that, not even a team player who has been known for this. And then I could cycle back even 4 or 5 years earlier with you, Joe. A couple of years ago, we were at the Coliseum, not together, but Game 6 versus Washington in the last season of the last season at the National Coliseum.
Game 4. Yeah.
Game 4, when Tom Wilson absolutely belted Lubomir Vasilevsky from behind, and thankfully, a player we will not name scored the goal, gave the team the lead with the last 3 minutes of the game. But again, mind you, then he did not receive a penalty or a suspension for that either.
Yeah.
Do we, as a league, do they need to either get rid of George Parros or really sit down and, even if it takes an extra day or 2 days, to evaluate the penalty or the circumstance at hand and start to really crack down on these guys more? Andrew, what do you think?
I don't know what they need to do, but what they're doing now doesn't work. I mean, beating around the bush. 3 games was not enough. I think what they're failing to look at here is this hit specifically, is that in a league that babies goaltenders, which in all due respect, it's fine. You shouldn't be hitting goaltenders. A goalie cannot step into a shoulder into a player like that. He does that every single time, a player's going to get hurt every single time. Anyone who's ever played hockey ever knows if they're going to skate past a goalie, they're not going to get hit. You're not braced for it. You're not ready for it. This should have been, in my mind, 10 games, if not more, because of that situation where he's a complete unsuspecting player.
You know, when you think about it from that perspective, which I really didn't, you think about you're hitting a vulnerable player, so you're talking about an easy, you know, five in a game right there. You give them a match.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's if Aaron Dell bumped Batson and he was like in his crease, like skating through it, and you just bumped him.
Yeah, that's fine. Even just like set a pick, you know, in your crease.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if I told you I haven't done it, I'd be lying to you. You know what I mean? And if you like, if you bump him, is more in a way to like, if you're in your crease and you kind of just like you do the shoulder turn just to let him know you're there and like, hey, like this is your chance to not come in my crease again. I'm okay with that. The only problem is that Drake Batson was not in the same area code as his crease. The NHL does need to bring back the Shannon ban. When everybody was getting banned every night. But you know,
wild time.
You know what? It worked.
It did. You're not wrong.
You know what I mean? People got, for lack of better terms, they put themselves in check. Things weren't happening like that, unless your name was like Rafi Torres. But you know what I mean? Like it wasn't. It wasn't every week of like, oh, I wonder if this guy's about to get sick for 8 years. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic. Two more things I want to touch quick before we touch our local teams. Both really quick. We don't really have to go into too much detail. Our first free agent is off the boards for this coming summer. Jeff Carter, he signed a 2-year extension in Pittsburgh for $6.25 million with a 3.2125 AAV. To me, interesting contract because he is not the Jeff Carter he was during the Kings Cup days, but he still has some offense to provide. With that being said, the NHL also crowned a new Iron Man. Tuesday night, former Coyotes, Rangers defenseman Keith Yandel, playing in his 965th consecutive NHL game to take over the Iron Man position. To me, in times of COVID and guys missing 3 games here, 5 games there, and then a month here, makes it all that more impressive. Kudos. Congratulations, you know, obviously well earned, and he's got to be doing something right if he's able to stay in the lineup for 965 straight games.
Yeah, I mean that's insane to think that he never got like diarrhea and couldn't play, like food poisoning. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that's crazy.
Really, something as simple as a stomach bug or the flu, or in today's world, even COVID. You know, the fact that he even managed to dodge all of that in the last 2 years is honestly remarkable.
And who knows what he played through?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I think that's what people tend not to look at either. Is okay, well, he missed this, he missed that, but you know, how many broken bones or torn ligaments, and how much of that did he play through? So moving into our local teams, look, we know we don't cover the Devils here too much, and we apologize. Your team is just bad, but we are going to bring our friend Rob DeLuca around. Rob is a co-host of Joey's on the Primetime Rundown, who happens to be a diehard Devils fan. So talking to Rob last night, we made a deal. Once a week, he's going to evaluate the week, and we're going to start a segment here called Rob's Thoughts. Very simple, you know? Look, hockey players aren't the smartest. We're going to keep it simple so everybody understands what's going on. So breaking down this week for the Devils, they're terrible, and even if they had average league goaltending, they'd still be terrible. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Moving forward.
Solid job, DeLuca. That was pretty good.
Well done.
We start we started the local teams last week with the Rangers. This week we'll start with the Islanders. Pretty quiet week as far as games. Only 3 games. The third being today with Seattle was postponed. For those who don't live in New York, we are getting hammered with the snow right now. So travel, obviously, for them was not ideal. So for the week, Andrew, what did I pick? 3-0?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wrong. On a technical standpoint, they went 1-1. They beat Philadelphia for the third time in 9 nights on Tuesday in a 4-3 victory, with help from basically everyone everywhere. Kick off the scoring with Dobson and Lee to bring the game back tied to 2 towards the end of the first period. Barzal with that beautiful power play snipe in the second. And then Parise never stops working. The guy is basically a grinder at this point. I don't think I've ever seen his legs not move. Eventually scores the game-winning goal. Ilya Sorokin, 14 saves on 17 shots, finishing the game with an 8.24 save percentage. Thursday, not as generous to the Islanders, as Joe, you may have seen. That team struggled until the last 2 minutes of the game, literally. The team just looked asleep the entire game. They were taken out of it in the first period with an early 1-0 lead for LA. Quentin Byfield's first NHL goal. That's always good for him. Not very good for me.
What a goal that was, too, Tyler.
It was a beautiful
goal.
snipe left side. You couldn't have placed it any better. And then to almost, what was there? Probably 8 seconds left in the second period.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it was a little less than that too. That was the hardest part. I believe that there was a tiny bit less than that as well.
And Andreas Athanasio again roofs over Varlamov's glove, takes a 2-0 lead going into the second intermission. The Islanders wouldn't finally get onto the board until just shy of the 18-minute mark of the third period with the empty net. Cuts the lead to 2-1. Not even 30 seconds later, LA buries the empty net goal, makes it 3-1, and not even 15 seconds after that, Cizikas makes it a 3-2 game. So the Islanders are known for giving us those types of games where we're either excited from the first 5 minutes of the first, or we are panicking in fear for the last 5 minutes of the third. Joe, based off of this week, what you see anything the Islanders need to do to catch up in the Metro?
It's a tough question.
We did also see the returns of Kyle Palmeri this week too.
Well, it's a tough question, and I think from what we continue to hear around the Long Island media and some of even the national writers, there was some rumbling I saw on Twitter that is Kyle Palmeri the next Andrew Ladd? I'm not going to go that far because what Kyle Palmeri has done in an Islanders uniform, we have seen what he's done last year, and it was really remarkable to get the Islanders to where they've got to get to. But he's in a massive slump. I think that this team right now is really deadlocked into a spot that they can't really make many moves, similar to an Edmonton. They need a puck mover on the back line. They don't have that. Robin Salo he's so young, but we know what Barry Trotz is going to do, and he's going to go with experience over youth. And he is in a win now mode, as is Lou Lamoriello for sure. But obviously Lou would back, we would expect what Barry Trotz were to do if he were to do it. But from watching the Islanders this year, who are really struggling, I don't know how they can get back up in the Metro. I think just by playing consistently is definitely something for starters. That's really the foundation that you have to build upon. First, you have to play 60 minutes for, you have to stick to your schedule. That's the whole thing. And we know as humans, we do better with routine, right? And that's also the way that these guys are too. So I'm not going to give any more excuses or really put this into the limelight about a 13-game road trip to start the season, because the New York Rangers did it a few years back. They eventually got out of it, and 2 years later went to the Stanley Cup final. Granted, they lost, but it didn't really matter. They eventually found their groove. I think what things might happen here where the New York Islanders may have no choice but to sell one piece. We don't know who it might be, but at the same time, you're not going to buy if you're down in the dumps. But I think what you're seeing here also is that can this team, this aging team, sustain 82 full games at the age that they are, and this overachieving Barry Trotz team? We have to realize something, and I can tell you Andrew definitely is kind of smiling on the inside as a Rangers fan, but the bottom line here is that if this New York Islanders team was not coached by Barry Trotz, they would not be where they are today.
No chance. I couldn't agree more. It's hard to really, like you would say, really look at a lineup and say, that's the guy they're going to trade, or this is who they're going to move, because not even a full 2 years ago now, Devon Toews was shipped out of Long Island out to Colorado, and although it was assumed he was going to be the odd man out, we as the fans would always assume, it's Lou, we don't have to worry about it, he'll make it work, and it didn't. So it does leave Islander fans on the edge of their seat as who is going to be the odd man out should they go that route. I have an idea of who I think the odd man out is. I just don't know if you trade this guy, it can't be the only move you make. And I think Semyon Varlamov's time here is done. And there's a team in Edmonton that we spoke about that desperately needs goalie, and they need help. And Varlamov is a guy that they will get 2 more years of control out of in a trade. I left you both speechless. This is beautiful.
Can I jump in here if you don't mind? I strongly disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because Lou Lamoriello wants to win now.
Okay.
He's 79 years old. If he does not see any improvement, yes, that light may go on.
Okay.
But the Islanders are throwing us curveballs here. Can they win against opponents over 500? Can they win against opponents, period? And it's evident that they can, but teams that are losing 12 or 13 straight, i.e. the Philadelphia Flyers. But the problem is that when you look at teams like the Washington Capitals and a team on the rise like the LA Kings, you cannot show up to a game and not score until the last 2 minutes of the contest. It simply will not work. Now, the cool thing, though, is that we've got the escalator in the salary cap, right? When they made the move, I believe it was hold on one moment. Tyler, help me out here with the salary cap will be when they made a specific move, something with a long-term injured reserve. I think it'll increase the ACSL. I think it's called. It increases to a certain amount.
So when you send a player to the long-term IR, your ACSL does inflate a bit.
Yes,
and that's actually why technically at the moment the Islanders have cap space.
Right.
And Ryan Pollock is still on long-term IR, eating $5 million per. Because of the inflation, it actually gives the Islanders $2 million in cap space, but it's kind of canceling itself out.
Yeah. So the problem, right? So exactly. So the problem with that is that there were some people saying that, oh yeah, they're going to have if certain things happen, they'll have like $14 million in cap space, something like that. No, that's not going to be the case anymore. But a lot of these players here, again, we look back to what Buffalo has. They don't have a lot of guys with term. They don't have a lot of, or yeah, they don't have a lot of attractive pieces with without term. That's the problem, and that's what these deadline rentals are going to be all about. And the Islanders are in that same predicament because these guys are signed for the long term. And the only one that's really not that you can look at is Cal Clutterbuck and Zach Parise. With those two guys, I think those are moves that you could make if the Islanders were to be, in the 60 or 70 point range come March. And I don't expect that to be. I think that actually, let me rephrase. I do expect that to be, but I can see those two pieces potentially being up for grabs. I don't see Semyon Varlamov potentially going now. I think because, again, what we were talking about with Lou and Barry wanting to just continue to win. In this day and age in the National Hockey League, we got a chance to see many years ago. Again, I keep bringing this up, when the Rangers made the Cup final, they were built on speed. The LA Kings were built on grit in addition to speed as well. The New York Islanders are built on grit and puck possession and defense, right? They are not built on speed, right? So now I also look to 2022 NHL, and the NHL is built on two goaltenders, right? You have to have a solid backup, right? And Semyon Varlamov, regardless of him making $5 million times the next 2 years, this year and next year, if the Islanders think that they are still in it, he will be off. He will be off of any radar for anybody. And keep in mind too, he still has a modified no trade clause. 16 teams he can deny a trade to, and that gives Lou Lamoriello a very tough time come the deadline. I expect if there will be a move, it will not be until the offseason.
So before I segue over to Andrew real quick, I'm going to ask you one more question regarding any moves the Islanders should make. And it's going to be the age-old question that you and I are very familiar with. Are they trading Josh Bailey?
No, they will not be trading Josh Bailey. It's simply not going to happen.
Do you think at this point, would they at least entertain the phone call?
I think that they would. I think that, when you're beginning to see really just complete dysfunction on the ice, they don't have a playmaker. And I think that what we're seeing, aside from Matthew Barzal, they do not have a playmaker. He needs a sniper. He needs a solid right winger. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe in the back of people's minds, Jordan Eberle might have been someone that should not have been exposed to Seattle, because you're seeing the offensive production take a massive dip. But again, I want to see consistency from this Islanders team before I can go along with what some of these writers are saying. Some unnamed folks from The Athletic, have written that in their stories, and it's not, to me, I think it's too soon. I don't like the way that, they're throwing it out already on Palmeri and saying that, oh yeah, maybe the Eberle, exposure for Seattle was the wrong move. I think you have to give it some time, and I think you need consistency. This entire season for the Islanders has been completely inconsistent. Spiel over.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to bash a guy like Kyle Palmeri, who has been out for about a month. When you look at his career, though, 26 games played this season, 7 points, and he's a -12. Ideally, not what you're looking for out of a guy you just gave, $5 million to, $5.5 million to, $5. Out of a guy you just gave $5 million to, that's not ideal. And I understand that. As a fan, people have to understand, just like you have sat through with your Eagles, we are sitting through with our Islanders. You maybe sat through for 15 minutes a couple of years ago. There is a building process to a team, and it's going to take time for guys to click. And yeah, anybody can get together for half a season or a bubble and do good things. Because you also have to consider, you have guys like J.G. Pageau, Kyle Palmeri, Oliver Wahlstrom is another, Kiefer Bellows, kind of another. I'll count them for now. Noah Dobson, Andy Green. Not one of the players I named has played a full season with this team yet.
Yeah, well, like I said, though, the problem is that, I give it, like I said, about 2 more weeks. COVID has completely has run through this entire
Well, which is the
entire
point I'm making, because Pajot was traded. He was brought here. He played his game against the Rangers. Lockdown. Palmeri brought here at the trade deadline last year. Out in the Eastern Conference Final. Only played a total of maybe 20 games. So the pieces that everybody is looking for, in my opinion, these guys need to do this. These guys also haven't had a significant amount of time to mesh with each other. I'm not saying that it's an excuse. Look, for the amount of money that these guys all make, Pajot makes 5, Palmeri makes 5, guys like Green and Wahlstrom and Bellows, those contracts aren't relevant yet to be too worried about. They're not even 7-figure contracts. But my opinion is like, you think about Kyle Palmeri as a perfect example to me. Last year, 2 of the guys he played on a line with aren't even here anymore. Because remember, Eberle did play a majority of the year last year on the third line. Bounced between, he bounced, don't get me wrong, but the majority of his time was spent on the third line. Wahlstrom came in, then Wahlstrom went to the third line, right? So
well,
Wahlstrom
the reason why also Jordan Eberle spent time on the third line was because Anders Lee got hurt.
Well, that's what I mean, is because
Bad line,
there was so much shuffling that even a guy like Kyle Palmeri has probably had 8 different wingers and centers with him at this point. Probably not centers, but wingers. He's had different people working with him all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
and that's the problem. And that's the problem too, is that, he has to work with certain playmakers, but aside from Barzal, who is that? Brock Nelson's struggling right now. He came back. He came back from the COVID protocol not too long ago. He was hurt for a few weeks, then thereafter. There's a lot of struggles that are going on here, but I think again we go back to what to your original question was that what can they do to catch up in the Metro? Tyler, we also have to realize too is that when they traded Nick Leddy, there was a massive hole on the defensive side of the puck, and that was who is going to bring the puck to the neutral zone, and they cannot find that piece yet. Robin Salo has been that guy, yes, for the interim, but guess what? He's very inexperienced, and also come playoff time, you need someone like a Nick Leddy with a tiny bit better defensive skill, okay? Because if you can get that again, you might be able to jumpstart something. But right now, with Ryan Pulock coming back in, you're going to have no choice but to take out Robin Salo, which I'm not a fan of. I think he should stay. Chara should sit. But again, we also have to look at the experience that Barry Trotz continuously preaches. Chara's not going anywhere. He's going to stay in. And as of right now, I don't even know who that puck mover might be, who that quarterback might be to get the puck into the offensive zone. I don't know.
Noah Dobson.
I mean, sure. If that's the case, then okay. But they also need to shore up that left side of the defensive core. They need to shore up the left side, and they right now it's very tough.
The reason I say Dobson is because he obviously, and you could see it in this game, he took on a major leap of responsibility when Ryan Pulock went down.
Correct.
His minutes went up, his responsibilities went up, his power play time went up, his penalty kill time went up.
Yeah.
I think Noah Dobson is exactly what I think Noah Dobson is slowly being molded into everything Nick Leddy was in a younger body.
And Chara is right there to help him, which really is one of the best people to help, because we saw how Charlie McAvoy turned out, and he turned out pretty damn good, huh?
Yeah, and when you consider that, let's see, Sebastian Aho is still floating around, Noah Dobson's floating around, and Robin Salo is still floating around. Zdeno Chara and really Andy Green are probably 2 guys I want near those kids at all times. Andrew, I can't really sit here and honestly tell you that I value any opinion you have on the Islanders, but I'm going to ask for it anyway. What do you think? Should a move be made? Is Varlamov one of the moves to make? And do they have any chance of climbing into the Metro?
I don't know if a move should be made, just because I think at the beginning of the season was just such a tank, not an intentional tank, but a tank. You might just throw it away and start over next year in a way. Just not to do anything drastic, because you guys were back-to-back in the Eastern Conference Finals. You don't want to blow it up. You don't want to, not that you would, but you don't want to do anything too crazy too quick. I do want to say I do kind of agree with you, Tyler, that if a move is to be made, I like the idea of trading Varlamov. I think while a lot of teams are running those tandem goalies, having one, I think Sorokin is your future. He's fantastic, and you need the scoring help. So if a move is to be made, I agree that it should be Varlamov.
So the only thing, and I didn't get to mention this before, and I feel like an idiot that I didn't. When I say that to move Varlamov, yeah, you need to have a solid backup. I understand that. The reality of it is that backups in the NHL really are a dime a dozen. There's probably more backups out there than there are legitimate starters, and that's really just how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Edmonton as an example because when you think of teams borderline desperate for goaltending, because Edmonton's not desperate yet, although they really probably should be. The return you could get for a 3-7-1 goaltender from a desperate team can be a lot higher than it should be. You know, I know there was a lot of rumors earlier on in the year that there was potential that the Islanders have been looking into Jesse Puljujarvi. Do I think that's going to happen for Varlamov? Absolutely not. It would obviously have to be a multiple-piece trade to even happen. Although, look, as a fan, and I'm sure, Joey, you would agree with me, I would love to see it happen if that's the return. If that's the return, that trade call should have been made 2 weeks ago.
Not even close. And I want to just throw that in there because, listen, I do agree that if there was something to happen, it would be Varlamov. But the problem is, guys, is that we know how valuable that second goaltender is. And me and Tyler, as Islanders fans, we know that who is the backup to the backup? Corey Schneider. We saw how Ilya Sorokin and Schneider, how they switched off. Guess what, fellas? They didn't. They never switched off. Sorokin was the guy the entire time, and Schneider maybe came in once. I don't even think it was once. I think he played even back-to-backs too last year I'm sorry, not last year, earlier in the season when Varlamov was down. With that undisclosed injury, which, we eventually heard it was probably like a lower body groin issue, whatever it was that happened last year in the semifinals. But the bottom line here is that if they trade Semyon Varlamov, that means that they are packing it in. That means that they are packing it in. Exactly what Andrew was saying is that do you start fresh next year? They can't blow it up, because if they start blowing it up, you're going to have dead cap to the point of what the Minnesota Wild have when they have $17 million as dead cap, one of the highest in NHL history that starts next year. So there is no doubt in my mind that Varlamov is definitely on that radar for other teams, but it's not going to cost them as much as you think. If Edmonton will come in there, yes, Lou Lamoriello could definitely pull the hand of some general managers, but it's not going to be a first-round draft pick because of that term at $5 million. It's not going to be. And since we're still coming out of this pandemic, where we're only also 1 year into a brand new television deal, the salary cap is not going to rise as fast as many people think. They thought the moment that ESPN, TNT were going to take over and NBC is out, yeah, it's going to rise, it's going to be $90 million. Well, guess what? We're still in the midst of a pandemic. Canada right now is not hosting any fans just yet. Some provinces, one of which being Ontario and Quebec. We got a chance to see Montreal play in front of an empty Bell Center against Anaheim a couple of days ago. So, those things there are going to really hold back. And I'm not blaming nothing along those lines, but it's just the bare bones reality that we have to live with, that a first-round draft pick to the Islanders for Semyon Varlamov, I think, is ludicrous. It's not going to be. Expect it like a second-round pick at most because of that $5 million cap hit that I remember when that was signed, it was a complete overpay. But if you wanted Sorokin to come over from Russia, you had to overpay to get a Russian goalie into your locker room.
So the only reason I don't call it overpay is because, like you were saying, you have to remember that season going into Varlamov's debut here was still Varlamov and Greiss.
Yeah.
So it was we knew Greiss was going to be the starter. Greiss was very good at starting for a week or two at a time and no more. Varlamov at the time, it didn't seem that bad. Okay, 4 years, 5 years or 4 years, $20 million. Okay, you know what? That's doable. But remember, Varlamov was also acquired before Pajot, before Palmeri, and even before all those minuscule contracts, before Parise, before Chara, before Andy Green. It's the dogs agree too. When those guys that I just named weren't in the picture, that $5 million on Varlamov doesn't seem as bad. But now when you have all of the, I just named $15 million in pieces. Now that $5 million kind of sucks. I think.
But we knew that was going to happen, though. We knew that was going to happen, and the reward, though, Tyler, is exactly what Andrew said.
Right.
Who is your future in net? Sorokin.
Exactly.
You got him over here.
So I think, because look, you got to think realistically. Like Cal Clutterbuck is going to be a free agent this summer. You're not moving him. He's going to play until he retires as an Islander. They're not going to break up the fourth line. That's just how it goes. There's not a ton to worry about this offseason. Parise, Chara, Green. Personally, I think Chara and Parise will come back. Dobson, Salo, Aho, and Kiefer Bellows, they're not even worth getting worried about because a judge is deciding how much everybody's getting paid other than Dobson. So it's really out of everybody's hands. And Austin Zarnik, who his cap crippling $725,000 is coming off the book too. Thomas Hickey comes off the book at 1.375. And that money will immediately be the name Thomas Hickey will be scratched off of that check and then sent right to Rick DiPietro again. So it's like I don't know. There's not a ton of moves to be made for the offseason. But we spent enough time on the orange and blue words I can't say on a podcast. But we're going to segue into the Rangers. Andrew, you got 30 seconds to go.
Not a good week.
No, look, it was not – it was a good week, but a bad week. You saw Hank's number go up.
Yeah.
You got win over the Kings. You lost to the officials last night, 3-2. Wild, excuse me. And I couldn't even tell you what happened in Columbus.
That game against Columbus was a disgrace.
Break down the week starting with Monday. Bring me into Friday.
Monday was great. I was at that game.
Yeah, you guys stop going to games because they win.
No, I'm 5-1 this year. My Capo Caco jersey's 5-0. I got to keep going.
There you go.
No, I mean that was a terrible game. Let's be real. The Rangers played awful in all three of their games this week. They just happened to win on Monday against the Kings. They went ahead. They lost the lead. They went down 2-1. Thank God that Artemi Panarin shot this puck in from the boards. It got tipped in by Barclay Goodrow. Beautiful tip in. Goes to a shootout where it's anybody's game. Igor was amazing as usual. Adam Fox made me drool with that shootout move he made. They won. Awesome. It's always nice beating the Kings after 2014. Go to Thursday against Columbus. I'm going out to Moe's to get something to eat real quick. I sit down. It's 2-0 Rangers. 3 minutes into the game. I'm like, this is awesome. This is great. I eat my stack. I eat my queso. I'm done. And they're down 4-2. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what's happening? I only got to watch the pretty much the second half of the game, and I was noticing very similar things from the game against LA, where everybody just looked lazy. They weren't. There was something missing. There was a missing piece to the puzzle. There was a lack of effort up until the third period when it was too late because they were already down by 3 goals. Every time, even before that game, when I was at work that day, we're talking about making a parlay for the night, and I kept saying, I don't count the Rangers out tonight because Georgiev is starting. Columbus is still not a good team. Every time I say something good about Alexander Georgiev, he makes me eat my words. And I'm sick of it.
Yeah, because you made sure to say something nice about him Saturday.
Yeah, he's annoying. Okay, I would like to see him traded. All the best to him. What was that?
Edmonton needs a goalie.
Sure, something. Listen. We can trade him easily. We have Keith Kincaid, who is serviceable enough, plus 2 goaltending prospects in the minors. We can get rid of Georgiev, get a return for him while we still can get something decent and get it done.
Yeah, I agree.
Fast forward to Friday, where everyone's saying bet on the Wild, and I'm like, listen, it's Hank's jersey retirement. The boys are going to be buzzing. They were buzzing for the first period, and then everything went south. It was the same thing we were seeing all week, where everyone was lazy. They were not finishing their passes. They weren't finishing checks. They were making lazy plays to get out of their own zone. It was an awful game. I can be mad at the refs, which I am, but they didn't deserve to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, because I did watch, obviously, with the circumstances, I did watch last night's game. I'm still very on the fence with the call as far as was it really goaltender interference, was it not? Because, yes, the defenseman did push Cam Talbot. However, Strome did kind of pin his arms down or pin his blocker in a little bit. It really is a call that it could have gone either way.
It was, true 50-50 goal.
It was a legitimate 50-50. The only thing, like you said, they did not earn that. They would not have earned a win. They wouldn't have even earned a point based off of how, for a guy who played with most of the players on your bench, for that team to move in slow motion like that is just like unexpected. Just like last season, or 2 seasons ago rather, we saw the Islanders raise John Tonelli's 27 to the rafters and then go smoke the Red Wings 8-2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, just in a general statement. And I mean, look, it's not like you're the first team that's ever retired a number and then lost a game. I mean, I never followed up with what the final score was last night from the Stars game, but
not good.
Yeah, they got smoked 5-0. So it is a little surprising to see them coming out with no juice.
Rangers are prone to this, though. Listen, we got a chance to see this. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Mark Messier's retirement night. I don't know if they lost or it was a close win, one or the other, but that one was close many years ago. I don't remember that exact score, but on retirement night, for some of the Rangers, it hasn't been good. But again, that's not only them. It's a lot of different teams.
Mm-hmm.
You said it with Zubov yesterday. 5-0, the Stars fell. It's very, very tough. And you know what? Just sometimes matchups, it doesn't land your way. Tyler, you said it with the real JT, of course.
Never heard of him.
Right, yeah, with the real JT with John Tonelli.
I've heard that one.
Right, exactly. Well, he is the real JT. When his number got retired, they played the lowly Detroit Red Wings. So it's just it's not coincidence. It's just it happens. It happens. You go up against these teams that. And look who it was, Matt Zuccarello, right? We heard that on the MSG broadcast yesterday, right? You heard Henrik Lundqvist say, "Don't let that guy score. Don't let him score." And then all of a sudden, boom, nice shot from the blue line. Unbelievable stuff.
Not even 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
Referencing the game you were talking about, it was Islanders-Oilers Rangers-Oilers, excuse me. And the Rangers won 5-4 in overtime.
Yeah.
Off a Jaromir Jagr overtime goal.
Yeah.
Assisted by Michael Roosevelt.
Nice. Yeah.
And Wow, these are some names on this in this game.
I mean, it was 2006.
Yeah.
Cora,
Well, how about New York Rangers legend Brad Isbister? How about that one?
Oh my God,
That is
what a name!
A gorgeous name.
What a
he was
name!
not on the score sheet for this game, and
I think that might have been 2005, maybe.
he might have
Andrew,
gotten
correct me if I'm wrong.
before.
That sounds
The
right.
Rangers roster this year was something.
Something was a word.
Yager, Kasparaitis, Tom Pody. Oh my!
No, it's just whatever. Those are dark times, okay?
A couple of years later, Bobby Sanguinetti, of course, Rangers legend.
Oh, absolute icon.
That's it.
I do have to say, I'm not as, even though the games, the way they perform is very similar, I'm not as disgusted with the game against the Wild. One, because the Wild are a better team. Two, we do have to remember they did not have Adam Fox. Adam Fox did get hurt in Columbus. He's going to miss at least 3 games. He's probably not going to the All-Star game. I'm going to cry in a corner. He's like the one guy that shows up every game. It's going to be a rough couple games without him. Luckily, we draw the Kraken, which should be a win, but we just lost to Columbus, so you never know. I'm scared.
My dogs are irate that Adam Fox is hurt. Just so
They should be. We draw the Kraken. The Kraken should be a win, and then we play Florida, and that's not going to be fun.
Right.
That's going to be an awful time.
So you took the words right out of my mouth. Adam Fox, he is going to miss 3 games. More than likely the All-Star game with an injury. I know we spoke about it a little bit before we started the show, but how much does this hurt the Rangers short term, and who's going to replace him at the All-Star game?
In the All-Star game, I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. We spoke about the All-Star game 2 episodes ago. The selection process makes no sense. The people who are going makes no sense. Send Greg McKegg.
Fair enough. So, Joe, one of the things we like to do here when we wrap up an episode is we kind of predict the week coming up.
Sure.
See how each team is going to do. Andrew, I'll start with you because we're still talking about the Rangers. You have Seattle tomorrow. You have Florida Tuesday. How do you feel? I'm assuming not very good.
No, not really. I still think we beat Seattle.
Okay.
Igor is going to steal us a win probably. Missing Fox is going to be awful. And we're still missing Hedel and Kako, which people won't realize how big of a deal that is. And then we're going to get absolutely waffle stomped by Florida. I might not even watch the game.
So you're going 1-1.
1-1.
All right, Joe, we have a somewhat similar week, except we do have an extra game with the Seattle reschedule. We have Minnesota tomorrow, Ottawa Tuesday, Seattle Wednesday. I'll let you make the pick for us. We're a team.
There you go. Minnesota will be a loss tomorrow.
Okay.
Ottawa, I believe, will be a loss. And I believe that Seattle will be a victory. And the reason why I say Tuesday and Wednesday, it's a coin toss. Because who are you going to start? I think that, who are you going to start in the cage? Is it going to be Varlamov on Tuesday? Is it going to be Sorokin on Tuesday? Who could it be? But we know that one of the two will be making the start, obviously, in both of these, in this back-to-back. And then they have a full week off, which that's another story for another time. But the bottom line here is that the way that the Islanders are going in a direction of, sort of consistency, I guess. I think Ottawa is a team that is, again, under the radar. They have so many, I don't want to call them dynamic yet, but very good players that are beginning to find a little bit of a foundation to build upon for years to come. And I think that with the Islanders having so many offensive production problems, yes, Drake Batherson is their leading scorer. He's out. But don't forget about the likes of Brady Tkachuk, Thomas Chabot, and then on the defensive side of things, Chris Tierney as well. you've got a lot of solid players. Colin White, another one. You've got a lot of players that, that could definitely make some noise. I think Ottawa comes away with the win, but Seattle, though, on the other side, I think the Islanders might get the best of them. They are really not a good hockey team. And, Dave Haxtell, this is looking like the Philadelphia Flyers when Haxtell was coaching them. And we all know how that turned out for the aforementioned Haxtell. It didn't work out too well. So I think that they'll get the win there, but I say the Islanders go 1-2 this week.
I'll tell you what.
I'm sorry, 2-1. Excuse me, 2-1. No, I was right. 1-2.
You were right the
1-2.
first time.
I was right. Yeah, my bad.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to go 2-1 if Sorokin plays Minnesota and plays Ottawa. If Varlamov plays either Minnesota or Ottawa, Seattle, I'm locking in as a win either way. If Varlamov plays either the Ottawa or the Minnesota game, 1-2.
Yeah, I could agree there.
The teams need to show up, though.
I will go. I'm sorry.
2-1.
If Sorokin plays Minnesota and Ottawa, I'm going 3-0 for the week. Because Varlamov, as bad as he might be right now, there's no reason he can't beat Seattle. And if he can't beat Seattle, we have real problems. Varlamov playing against Ottawa obviously tells me that Sorokin plays Seattle. I'm gonna stick to my guns. 3-0.
It's tough. It's tough, Tyler, especially because, it's very easy for us to put the blame on Varlamov, but we have to look at the team in front of him, though. And he can stand on his head as much as he wants, and we have seen him do that, especially last year with the lack of offensive production that this team has had. Now it's even worse. So obviously you're going to be getting some bad goals that go in. Yes, rightfully so to blame, but there might be some others that are completely out of his, out of his wheelhouse that he can't control. But this team has to show up in front of him for all of these. And you know what? It doesn't even matter if it's Minnesota, if it's Ottawa, if it's Seattle. They have to show up in all three of these games. And it's the teams in front of him because it makes his job that much easier. Yeah. But Sorokin, though, he's doing what he can. And he is just this young, hungry, firepower goalie that he comes in, he stands up on his head. Fantastic job. He makes the team in front of him look better. Varlamov, though, he's a step too slow, but the team needs to show up and be better in front of him. It's tough.
All right, so Andrew, you go 1-1. Joey, you take 1-2, and I'm sticking with 3-0.
I
hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm right too.
The game against Ottawa is scary, man. Ottawa has played really well the last couple games.
I want to see how they I don't want to see how they look because they obviously played now since, but I want to see them be a little consistent without Batson in their lineup.
I'll tell you, they would have won today. They would have beat the Ducks if not for John Gibson.
Yeah,
John Gibson
is
insane.
A West Coast national treasure.
Yeah, they've been pretty good.
Said, another episode done.
Iconic.
I hate both of you more and more every day.
Right back at you.
No, look, this was good, Joe. You gotta come around more. I know.
Thank you for having me on, fellas. I truly appreciate it. It was a ton of fun today, and just like what I said in the open, extremely grateful to talk about hockey all the time. It's truly my personal favorite sport. Really is.
Well, considering that you are also the man who gives me the ability to run and produce this show, I can't really tell you that you're not welcome whenever you want. You'll just show up. So.
It's a rare Saturday off that I can.
Yeah, I know with the circumstances, some travels was some travel plans were canceled.
Yeah.
But
so now next time I'll see you on Memorial Day weekend, okay?
Yeah, I'll probably see you again at the draft.
There you go.
No, look, whenever you're free, even for 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Come on in.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
With that being said, again, guys, without our friends over at the Primetime Rundown and the Essential Wrestling Podcast, we can't be here, so we thank both of our crews over there for the help. Also, our friends over at Lividity LLC who let me steal Andrew for 2 hours a week to talk about hockey. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tyler Adelle. To the bottom of the screen is Andrew Mucaria. I butchered it again, didn't I?
One day,
Every
dude.
week. Every week. I'm going to get it next week. Don't worry about
Only
it.
been like 10 years.
To my left is Joe Jarzynka. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Go to bed.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the Sunday Sauce. And we will see you next week. We're out.